Hello, and welcome to Aging Out Loud, the official podcast of NYC Aging. I'm your host, Lorraine Cortes-Vazquez, Commissioner of New York City Department for the Aging. This is where we talk about the real experiences of growing older in New York City. We remove limits and stereotypes and celebrate what it means to age with power and purpose. My guest today is someone who keeps NYC Aging moving forward every single day. Michael Ognibene. He's our first Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer, and the person I count on the most in this agency to help lead this agency. He brings 46 years of experience across government, philanthropy, and the private sector. Before joining Aging, Michael led operations at the Administration for Children's Services, commonly known as ACS. He also worked as the Deputy Mayor for Strategic Policy Initiative, where he helped launch the expansion of pre-kindergarten for all New York City children. He served at Youth and Community Development and also at the city's probation department. Michael has a gift for building strong teams and creating the conditions for people to do their best work. He's my rock, and he's helped me make NYC Aging one of the city's top places to work. So, Michael, you've served leadership roles across many city agencies. What drew you to NYC Aging?
What drew me to NYC Aging, in 2018, I had turned 61. And after serving 15 years on youth services, I started thinking about being 60. And I thought about the Department for the Aging. At the time, there was a commissioner, and it was nearing the end of the de Blasio era. And I thought, well, it's really not going to happen yet. Lo and behold, commissioner left. You were named. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity to reach out and see if I could come here.
Yeah, and I remember we had a very, very colorful interview, and it's been sort of like our relationship has been for the last year.
Absolutely.
Quite colorful and purpose-driven. How has this experience shaped the way you think of the workplace?
Well, I had started my career in New York City government at DYCD, which was a very small agency. I moved from there to probation, which is a medium size. I moved from there to City Hall for a while, and then finally to ACS, which is a very, very large agency. After a few years, I moved here, again, to a small agency. The difference is I would compare ACS is this big ocean liner. If you want to get over there, you got to start steering now. And if you're lucky, in an hour or two, you'll be over there. NYC Aging is a speedboat. If you want to get over there, you just turn the steering wheel just a little bit and you're there. So that's the big difference.
Well, that is different, but I've come from a philosophy, or I've been trained in a philosophy that corporate culture will eat innovation and getting that speedboat over there anytime and any day for lunch. So tell me a little bit about how you manage in that kind of an environment also.
Coming here, I focused a lot on the workplace culture. After being in the private sector and knowing how you get things done, and then being in government and discovering it's not always the same way. But through the years at DYCD, at probation, at City Hall, at ACS, by the time I got here, I understood well about public sector culture and how to make this as efficient as they do in the private sector. And I can get to that later on.
Yeah, that's great. And we are living testimony to that is possible, that you can bring the best of corporate thinking and taking all the assets of public service and bring those together to be really an efficient and effective machine. And thank you, because you've done that well here. We were here for a bit, not that long, and then the pandemic hit. And I remember those first few days when we had to think about how do we change what is primarily a communal service approach to an individual homebound approach. And then how is it that you think of an organization, an institution that is present every day, 7 days a week, 35 hours a week, and everything is in person, high touch? How do we now transition that to remote kind of environment? And Michael, in 2 weeks, you not only ensured that we were all remote, set up in our homes, quite efficient, but you also set up some systems during that time. I was, as everybody knows how technologically adept I am. And so the fact that we could take 349 people and set them up so that they had systems in their homes up and running so that we would not lose a day of work was something I still marvel at. But we also needed to come up with some channels of communication and some systems because the work needed to be done, particularly for us because we were one of the target populations. Why don't you share with people what some of those systems that you did put in place, and in particular, which of those systems still exist and why?
We came up with this idea of a muster, an all-staff meeting. How that came about is, think back to when you were in school, grade school. Ding, ding, ding. The principal always said, "Welcome, students," and always was able to deliver a message to the students. When I was at all the agencies, there was never an opportunity to do that, right? If you wanted to meet you had to rent an auditorium, and then you're lucky to get 300 people in. Suddenly, we had COVID, and everyone Teams and Zoom, and I had my platform where I could now speak to all the staff. And that was the first thing, is knowing that we could do it. And secondly, genuinely, I became concerned especially about the staff that lived alone. How are they doing? And so I came up with this idea of a daily, we called it a muster, but it's really all staff getting on a call together. And I did it every day. And I'm not that open, but I think in those first few months of me leading the muster, I exposed and shared more about myself in those 2 or 3 months than I had in many, many, many years of working professionally. And it came from my show. Then I added the chief of staff, Edgar, and Ben to talk about emergency preparedness. We met every single day. Eventually, it became 3 days a week, and now it's still happening today, 1 day a week, every week at Tuesday, 2 o'clock. All staff get on a call together.
It's amazing to me how powerful a tool and a system it is. I still marvel at the fact of how many people want to participate and how we've used it so effectively, Michael. I mean, that is something, it is a lesson for me. You created community in this agency through that process has been amazing, and that still lives today. Every week, people look forward to that muster as a way of knowing what their colleagues are doing or other new things that are happening in the city. What other systems did you create that that still have a long life?
The other big one is when we came back to work after COVID, everyone was here. And then suddenly they introduced this idea of remote work. Personally, I'm not a fan of it. Some people are. I think you just get so much better out of working face-to-face, walking down the hall. You can't even eavesdrop when you're at home. We spent a lot of time those first few months before COVID trying to establish culture here. And then we came back and suddenly it was remote work. So how was I going to preserve culture, right? And so we made a deliberate attempt. We introduced this group called We Can, which is a wellness, engagement, culture, action network. And action being the operative word, because it's really doing things. It's not just talking. It's not philosophy. It's not policy. It's actually doing things. And it was intended to stimulate staff engagement, right? The very first thing we did was April of last year, we bought glasses for everyone during the solar eclipse. And the agency as a unit went out, stopped working, and went out and watched
We had so much fun.
the eclipse together. Suddenly, Juneteenth came along, right? On June 18th, a big group of us went to the African Burial Museum together the night before Juneteenth. July got hot. We pulled up an ice cream truck in front of the building, and everyone got ice cream, and on and on and on. So it's about staff engagement. And if we're going to define the culture, we want to be able to maintain this culture. Staff are in on Monday. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they stagger in or out. They're working remotely 2 days. And the only way to preserve our identity is do it deliberately.
You and I remember what this was like when we first got here. It was a philosophy of, if you think I'm working, I am. Lots of commitment to older adults, and lots of commitments to your unit and to maybe to what you did. But it wasn't an agency-wide approach. It wasn't a view of moving older adults forward, the older adult gender forward. And you have, with a team, but you have been a leader in not only galvanizing them as a team, but galvanizing all of us around this mission and this purpose.
I think, why does someone work here? Why are you, if you're in general services, do you work here? Why, if you're in procurement, do you work here? Why, if you're in HR, do you work here? So again, another deliberate step was making the connection of the staff to the work that we do. This began last year, very pronounced. It was Older Adult Center Month. We operate 300 senior centers. We did frames recognizing every single senior center, recognizing hard work and their commitment to the older adults. Every single staff had to take one of those frame certificates and visit an older adult center. People in the mailroom, people in HR, people in timekeeping, people in procurement, they have nothing to do with the program work. Why? Because to connect them to the work that we do. That's the first thing.
That went over so well, not only with our team being so invigorated and seeing, I remember someone came back, that was the first time I ever saw an older adult center. And they had been working here for a long time. But that was also so invigorating and validating to the network. I had gotten so many comments. We appreciate this. And they were treasuring those frames as if it was a major certificate or something. It was, because it was an expression of gratitude. But the overwhelming response to that was also very gratifying.
Staff here felt very engaged by doing that. Caregiver Month, National Caregiver Month. We have 2,500 caregivers. Every staff sat down and wrote a handwritten note, eight handwritten notes, and every caregiver received handwritten messages. Friendly visiting, we wrote the
Some of us did it in multiple languages.
So I think that if staff are connecting to the older adults, they're more passionate about the work that they're doing.
It is amazing how you bring out the best in people. What brings out the best in Michael Ognibene?
I take pleasure in I love catching people doing something right? I had a great mentor for 15 years. For 15 years, this guy sat next to me and I watched him, and he didn't think, he talked. And the reason why he talked is he wanted me to understand how he makes decisions. Right. And I learned so much from this man. And it's the same thing. I spend a lot of time here bestowing, my wisdom and experience on others. And I love to see that. So I think I just take pleasure in watching others do well.
Yeah. The one thing that I value so much is our commitment, and you being a leader in that is our commitment to the development of staff. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of efforts we've done and that you've led around staff development and professional improvement?
One thing I've done individually is I bought a box of the 1 Minute Manager. Every time a new staff is named a supervisor, they've never supervised before in their life. They do a great job. The front line, suddenly they're a supervisor. What are they going to do? This book isn't the Bible, but it's my first management book that I ever read. And I read that in the 80s, early 80s, and I still have. Now it's the new 1 Minute Manager. But I always sit down with them, talk about being a supervisor, and hand them that book. So that's one thing I've done individually. And then also we came up, even during COVID, we designed these academies where cohorts of admin staff, cohorts of first-time supervisors went through weeks and months of training. So it's not just one and done. You're not going to become a good manager with 1 3-hour session. It was a real deliberate, extended period of time. We've boosted up our HR team, training team. We have a curriculum now. We have choices that people can choose. Or we even ask staff, what do they want? We do surveys, and then we tailor classes around their needs.
Yeah. The one thing that you've been an excellent partner is that whenever we see a gap, you always find a solution of how to fill that gap. I remember when we were concerned that the administrative staff, the frontline administrative staff, were not engaged or might not be representing us in the best possible way. The first thing we did was have training for administrative staff. And that was one of those that we got incredibly positive feedback. So
they had been left out or left behind.
Yeah. And that's what you've always done. You find, you You figure out where the gap is and how can we fill it, but with that central to all of that decision is the employee and the well-being and the enhancement. Some people might not always think of you that way, but that is what you do.
I push, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything that I'm not going to do. As I've hired over the years, what's it going to be like? I said, we're going to work hard, but we're going to have fun doing it. The only thing I can promise you is we're going to have fun. And I think that stat do here. They work hard, but we have a fun time doing it. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, it's no longer work.
Yeah, it's always, well, I have a little bit of a different philosophy. I always say, if it's not fun, I'm not doing, right? And the other thing is that if you want to always have fun, then, don't call it work, right? Just make it something that you enjoy and thrive in, and therefore others will thrive with it. You know how appreciative I am, and everyone knows that I could never have done this job without you at my side. What do you see the future for this agency? What do you want to see in the next 5 years?
Oh, continue to build. I mean, the magic happens in the middle, right? And continue to build our middle managers up to be daring and take it on. Don't ask me, can I? I've done it. Make some decisions and start owning a lot more. That's one thing. Continue with the professional development. We have to continue to upskill. I'm 68. I'm still learning, and not hold people back. Right. I meet with the interns every summer, and they ask me for advice. And I always say 3 things. Number 1, be curious, because curiosity got me to where I'm at. I could talk about a couple of incidents. Second thing is raise your hand. Visibility. When someone says, I need someone too, I'll do it. It's because it's visibility. And the third is find a mentor. Be a sponge and absorb. If we can continue to do that, find staff that do that are curious, that will raise their hand, they'll take it on, and they'll continue.
Yeah, and it's sort of as you're developing others, you grow, and that's a big philosophy. What is one word that you would use to describe the NYC aging team?
Tireless. You can't do what we do without passion and hard work, and we spend tireless. I couldn't explain why, but we spend 10 hours a day here, right? And we're constantly taking it up a notch. Like in Spinal Tap, they took it to 11.
What do you see as hope for the future of public service?
Oh God, for 23 years I've been hosting and sitting with interns. When I see them, every summer I get excited, right? And when they leave at the end of the summer, there's a gap here. But this last summer, the last 2 summers had been particularly just so eye-opening that the class of interns that we had gave me promise, right? I know when I'm no longer sitting in this chair and that my tax dollars are going to be well spent.
Yeah, the other thing that you have always done with the interns, which has been amazing, is that with deliberate intent, converting them into advocates for aging. Because when they come here, they know nothing about aging, and some of them carry all of the ageist attitudes that everyone else carries. I mean, there's nothing unique to them. The Call It Out Ageism campaign, it was generated by some of these young people. So what do you think would be the best neighborhood in New York to age and to age well?
Well, I'm going to reveal, I live on Bryant Park. I can walk almost anywhere I need to. As I get older, and I know I have that luxury of walking down the block to the store, to the shoe repair, to the bar or restaurant, for me, that's the ideal neighborhood to be in.
Yeah, we have neighborhoods like that in the Bronx too. So, Michael, what gives you hope?
You always say, leave it better than what you found it, how you found it. And I think we've done that. I'm not done yet, but I'm getting there, and I'll be proud and happy when I leave that I didn't, I've left an impression. I believe I left an impression at most of the places I've worked, but this is probably the most secure. If I leave, I think I'm confident that a lot of the structures are going to stay in place. And I'm not talking about the programs.
Yeah, well, we also say not only leave it better than you found it, but leave it so solid that it takes them a while to undo it. So that you've done, Michael. You've left a very solid foundation, an interesting approach, and effective approach. And for that, I want to thank you for your insights, for your leadership, for your partnership. So to our listeners, aging in New York is growing bolder when we challenge ageism and we build workplaces that reflect our values, as Michael has done. We create a city where every generation thrives. You can find Aging Out Loud wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about NYC Aging and our work, visit nyc.gov/aging. I'm your host, Lorraine Cortes-Vazquez. And until next time, keep aging out loud.